Hey friends and family, hey loved ones, hey fools, hey beloveds, all you loved ones, all you loved ones that love and are loved, so dearly loved. I just wanted to get on here and share some beautiful nuggets and some love and some tools and some gifts, that I am grateful for, that I appreciate, that I love, that I value, that I celebrate. And just these little gifts that I love that do activate, the truth within me and that love, like that spark of love and passion and of being, like that receptivity that I open my being to, to honor myself and all I need. And just these blessings and these gifts that have come to me that I've been drawn to or have been drawn to me that really do make me feel alive and um, and full. It really do like spark like something in me, that knows and that can feel like the truth of these things and see beyond like the surface of things or the appearance of things. And I've always liked going deep and into my own little world, into my own little large world, and seeking and searching and discovering like all these things, just part of my being, like to know me, to love me, and to free myself. And something that I've always enjoyed is music and sound and the chants and the word and playing with words and expression, like creative expression. And so these chants have helped me like so much in the last couple of years. And I just wanted to share like some of my practices and some of the things that I received yesterday. Just looking into some things because my curiosity and my intuition led me there, and just part of my continuity and my expansion and my growth into all of my potential and possibilities, just for joy, for fun, for creativity, for service, for connection and gratitude and appreciation, all those things. The four pillars of being happy, can relate to all the things that I do get to choose for me and that I choose for me. I choose to receive for me. I choose to offer to myself to receive and offer to others as well. So it's just the gifts that keep on giving. And so the book that I shared a little bit from yesterday, Healing Mantras, Using Sound Affirmation for Personal Power, Creativity, and Healing, Thomas Ashley Ferrand. So Healing Mantras. And I love his voice, and I love his offerings, and I love the gifts that he has to share, and the gift, that he is just by being who he is. And offering like all of these gifts, all of these blessings that we all are and that we all do have to share. And they're all like just unique in their own ways. And no one, can be who we are and give what we have to give. And so that's like just the awesomeness of our own beingness, our own truthfulness, our being ourselves in all of this. And so it's just kind of fun. Like there's some things that are coming up for me, like to clear, cleanse, or allow and appreciate. And there's some old patterns that I'm breaking up and that I'm dissolving, and then healing, and just giving up, and then redirecting my freed up energy into new, like creative ways that really support and sustain and value and appreciate all this love, and circulating more freely and not trapped or stuck or looping around itself anymore. So now it has like more potency and yeah, there is more availability, yeah, to direct my own energy and to, yeah, create what I want instead of going along with certain programs and creating someone else's agenda or dream or um, yeah, whatever it is that hijacked my energy in the past to feed and to drain my energy, like to feed something else and to drain my energy. It's now I reclaim it to like support and sustain what matters to me, what I love, what I want to appreciate, what I want to cultivate, and what all I get to choose for me and all I get to choose to be. So redirecting my energy in service, like to the whole, in service to my whole full self, in service to my integrity, in service to our integrity, in service to the whole. Yeah. So yeah, just working with those things. But yeah, since there is like all of these new things and it is unknown and like coming into the new where there's no like real frame of reference anymore, it is a little bit like, yeah, trying to grasp sometimes for like some kind of anchor or some kind of thing like stability or something to help me feel a little more secure because of this self-doubt and insecurity that has been cock blocking me. I've been getting in my own way, like in certain ways, but it's okay. Is just get to learn and play with this and work with this and move through it. And so just trusting myself and trusting life and trusting in all that I love and trusting that this love like is with me and this love is a part of me and this love is within me and this love is all around me and this love is the love that I am and this love is the love that we are and just the rest is a story. So just let it be and just enjoy like being a human being and also like being that vessel, being that receiver, being that channel, being that medium. Yeah, for consciousness to experience itself, to know itself, to love itself, to free itself, to express and create itself, to become itself. So yeah, just I love all these tools and I love like all the things that I love so much. I so appreciate all of this love. And I do like appreciate focusing on all that I love to serve all of that I love in my own ways as I can and as I will and as I am. Just by being me through being. And that even includes like playing at being who I think I am. So I just get to receive and accept all that I am and this process of discovering all that I am and all that we are and all thou art. So I have had like certain packets or samskaras of this unfinished energy pattern or wounds from the collective or yeah, the emotional pain body being stirred and activated. And it's a good thing though, like to activate that so that it can be released in certain ways if I can be conscious and present of it and allow it or just yeah, pay attention and allow myself like learning like how to do this and learning the process or learning as I go and just enjoying it and playing back, playing with, playing in, playing at. So all those things. And harmonizing the dual nature and the higher and the lower, the above and below, the inner and the outer. And all those things yeah, that relate and that are one side of one whole. So yeah, with this social anxiety, like that I used to have or struggle with like like nothing else. Yeah, gosh, because I was just so yeah, afraid of doing it wrong. Plus I was so sensitive like to the emotions and the energies of others that I always took things personally. And yeah, kind of observed and watched to see what was safe, like to express, and what wasn't, or where I felt like I wasn't okay to be me, and it wasn't okay, like to be true to me, or to actually be myself. So I had created like all of these layers of armor and different masks that I wore, so I could like play certain roles to just like fit in, to get my needs met, to belong, to be comfortable, to make others comfortable. Just a way to function, um, in certain ways in this world, where I didn't feel safe, and didn't feel like it could be authentic. So I did hide like a lot of myself away, and um, yeah, just assumed different roles, and got attached to certain identities, and um, who I thought I was, or who I thought I needed to be for others to accept and love me, and to be worthy of being loved, or just to be enough, just to be enough, or to be good enough, to be judged or valued as worthy, as enough, all those stories. And so some of these old packets of energy, then that were suppressed, and that I'd distract myself from, or I'd avoid certain things, or I wouldn't be able to show up for things, or follow through with things, or really allow myself to be and express like the truth, like of my being. Always like really deferring to like the dominant energy that was in the group, or the dominant personalities, and going along to get along in certain ways. Although like I always like held on to like some part of my sovereignty, because like there was like certain boundaries, or internal boundaries, that I did have, that I knew that I had, that I wouldn't let it get myself get pushed too far with certain individuals. But then I was involved in certain dynamics where I was unconscious of how I dishonored myself, and dishonored my energy, or dishonored the relationship, or dishonored the other, through not honoring myself, through not honoring my truth, through not honoring my needs, through not honoring my love, and the love that I am, and the love that I needed to be. So just kind of interesting watching these old patterns come up, or like even just like allowing the feelings to come up. Definitely like nervousness and tension and anxiety, and like that feeling of lack, or that I don't have, or whatever. But just reminding myself that I am that I am, that I am that I am, and I have that within me. I know that I am. Like, and it's just like, even if it's not like a developed quality, that quality is still there, and it's just waiting for nurturance and attention, and that cultivation and appreciation, and working to develop, or working with it, or allowing it to be developed, or allowing it to emerge, allowing certain things to grow and be grown, and all those things. So letting things go, that's been a huge part of it, is just letting shit go, and not having to pick it apart and analyze every single thing about it. But although, like, because I do want to understand, like, I want to understand everything, and so it's just one of those things I get to work with, and and play with, and see into, and just observe, and just be with, to be present with. So the social anxieties, what are people gonna think? And how do people see me? How do others see me? And like thinking that, or believing that, like everyone's just gonna see me through that lens of the judge, or in that lens of not enough. And like, really, that has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with me. So remembering like what I've agreed to, the 4 agreements and other agreements that I have with myself, and other codes and other vows and promises and convictions that I have, that I've made, for myself. And to honor myself, to honor the capital S self, to honor all life, to honor like who I really am, who we really are, all we really are. And so just reminding myself like not to take things personally. If people have a positive reaction towards me, that's not personal. If people have a negative reaction towards me, that's not personal. It's just like also remembering that we vibrate at certain frequencies, that we're receivers of consciousness, and we hold certain frequencies. We can, tune in to certain frequencies. And maybe if like there's some sort of attraction there, it's because it's a like attracts like thing. And if there's like repellence there, it's just because they're not vibing with my frequency, and it's not personal. Like, and that's okay. Like it can either be a challenge or a mirror or a reflection for me, and a message or an invitation for me to see more deeply into me, to see like, what love is asking me, to see what love needs from me, to see what I like can receive, and who I can be. So consider it another that I'm sharing a space with or in relationship with, but they're responsible for their emotions and their likes and their dislikes and their actions and their behavior and their thoughts and their beliefs. And I'm responsible for mine, and I don't need to manage mine and theirs. I don't even really need to manage mine. I just get to allow and be present and respond to mine. So, and just let go, of things that keep me from honoring, myself and the other fully. And like just doing my best and allowing the process. So just learning little by little, bit by bit, and step by step, and link by link, like freeing myself from this mind slavery, the slavery of the mind, and this menticide. So bringing my mind back to life, and life back to my mind. So there's one thing, that I want to share about faith. About choosing faith and being grateful for faith. And I have super appreciated the journey of learning and the discovery, and it is like I have felt like more patience lately. I haven't felt like it's been such a struggle in the last week or so, because I've just been more in self-acceptance, more in like true, like radical self-acceptance of what is, and of all that we are, and of all that is right now. So that is a huge freeing up of energy right there. Not fighting or resisting what is, just being willing to respond to it and care for myself through this as best I can, and I'm able to, and also extend that to others, and to allow them to be where they're at, as they are, where they are and where they will be, and in their own process, in their own journey of discovery. So that feels so much more expansive and allowing and accepting of the whole. And it does, like, it feels really right. It feels good, and it's like a relief. And so, just allowing like all the things that aren't really comfortable sometimes or don't feel very good, just to emerge and to be like surrendered, or to be felt and met and honored, and then to be like surrendered and let go of. So allowing it to move through and to be like what it is, and to be honored and acknowledged and seen, and then freed, so it can be circulated and recirculated, so life can regenerate through this creative energy. And so there is like a lot that will come in that relates to that, I'm sure. But my news stories of we are worthy and I am worthy, and so I do use the word and chant so much, like as the tools, because the word is our tool, our power to create, and that is like number one of on the four agreements: be impeccable with your word, and it's our word is our power to create, and we can create the most beautiful dream, or we can create like the most terrible nightmare with the words that we speak and think, and choose to put our energy into, our currency, like into. And so just encourage everyone to look at the words they think and speak, and if they are like true, if they are true and full, and aligned with what we really want, and with what love is really asking us, with what our love is really asking us to choose, to create, and to offer, to receive, to share, honor, and be. And I wrote this little thing when I was feeling like a super, super high anxiety. It was just like, I had to remind myself, or I got to remind myself, like, oh yeah, this is just what this is. This is an old samskara being activated, and now it's time to just let it go, to let all of that suppressed energy from the past go. And so just like writing it out, like I often do, because it does help me write it like for myself, and rewrite my own story for my whole self, instead of giving someone else the pen and say, here, you write it for me, and it's okay, I'll take the initiative, and I'll receive this and this initiation, and to know and to become myself, to be all that I am through being myself. Oh my goodness, silly me being silly. Just give it all back and just let it move through me without judgments of lack. Just let it all go and let it all be, and give it all back and let love be free. Cutting the cords and setting me free, setting love free. We're all free to be. We're all free to be. We're all worthy beings. We're all love, so be. Be one at peace within me. Be one at peace, my unity. Be one at peace and be free. Be one at peace and know me and we, the center of all things. Know thyself and be free. Be one at peace. We are enough. I am enough. There is enough for all of us. Gratitude, appreciation, receptivity, honoring my choices, gifts, blessings, responsibilities, and opportunities. I am willing to expand, grow, surrender, learn, and change. I am willing to be all I am. I am willing to love all I am. I am willing to own all I am. I am willing to know all I am. I am willing to receive all I am. I am willing to honor, care for, and free all I am. I am willing to trust all I am. So, there were a couple things that I did receive this morning, and just allow the wisdom to emerge and reveal itself. No need to describe or manipulate the messages or with ego agendas. So sound, chant, the word, intent, music, frequency, the ultimate override frequency is love. Finding love in the underworld, healing mantras, ways of healing, being, living, becoming, embodying, honoring all this love we are, all this love thou art, all this love I am. And so, it's all about, the word and chant, and our intention and our attention. And so that's so super powerful, like our consciousness, like where we focus and direct our energy and our attention. That is like a big, huge part of it. And the way we feel about things, and the way that we feel about ourselves, our emotions, that we can get carried away by, or that we can allow to teach us or show us, and help us harmonize certain elements within us. And they're like little clues and keys and messages. And it is like our direct source, like that connection to our vital energy, our creative energy, like our emotions and our thoughts and our intentions. It's like mind, thought, will. So huge potency. Like if we direct that energy in a conscious manner, and concentration and discipline, and or just relaxing into it, or just being willing and not needing to force anything, but just allowing it to go where it needs to go sometimes. And it can be that simple. So I picked up this book today, Faith by Sharon Salzberg, and thank you, Dad, for this book. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. And I just flipped open to where this book cover was like kind of just sitting here, and I was going to share something about like taking refuge. So I'll share a little bit about that, and then a page that I didn't intend on is faith and fear, and I may go into that one. So faith. All of us go through times in our lives when we feel as if we are lost in a wilderness, caught in a violent storm. Exposed and vulnerable, we look for something or someone to help us through the upheaval. We look for a place of safety that won't break apart no matter what we are experiencing. As many of us have discovered, the refuge we may have sought in relationships, in ideals, in points of view, ultimately lets us down. We begin to wonder, is there any refuge that is real and enduring? On that first evening of the retreat, Goenka offered assurance that the answer to that question could be yes. Finding a spiritual refuge is a significant step on the journey of faith. A trustworthy refuge enables us to go against the misleading promises of an unexamined world, to move beyond conditioned attitudes and responses, to eschew superficial or heartless answers to our deepest questions. Goenka seemed to be speaking directly to me, his words catapulting through the space between us, landing in the center of my heart. I had been yearning for a refuge, a safe home. I could see that my fleeting thoughts and feelings were no more a safe haven than the continuously shifting, often wrenching experiences of my life had been. I needed a refuge wholly different from anything I already knew. So, outwardly, Goenka resembled an ordinary Indian businessman, but he radiated something extraordinary from within. Centered, unruffled, he seemed completely comfortable in his own skin. Goenka was rigorous in his approach to teaching meditation, precise in his instructions, and demanding the very best effort from his students. Yet his kindness and compassion charged the air around him with warmth and light. In a classic display of bright faith, I was enthralled. I wanted more than anything to edge closer to that warmth. Goenka seemed deeply dedicated to helping his students achieve happiness. My faith blazed brighter in his inspiring presence. Most of us gathered there were inexperienced in meditation. The anticipation of beginning a unique adventure together was in the air. Goenka laughed a lot, spoke to us in simple English, and was quite approachable. He explained that it was the traditional to begin a retreat by taking refuge in the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. We were about to open ourselves, he told us, to a deep process of seeing and freeing ourselves from old patterns, and we would need to feel a sense of safety in order to accomplish this. All of us go through times in our lives when we feel as if we are lost in a wilderness, caught in a violent storm, exposed and vulnerable. We look for something or someone to help us through the upheaval. We look for a place of safety that won't break us apart no matter what we are experiencing. As many of us have discovered, the refuge we may have sought in relationships, in ideals, and points of view ultimately let us down. We begin to wonder, is there any refuge that is real and enduring? So, for myself, I love taking refuge. I love the ceremonial feeling of it, the deliberate acknowledgement of the forces of wisdom in the world. I love opening myself to an expanded view of what my own life could be like. I love the ritual of looking for the best within myself. Most of all, I love the sense of celebration, of joining with others all the way back to the Buddha in an adventure of freedom. The first refuge, the Buddha, refers to begin with to the historical person Siddhartha Gautama, the man who once ate a meal across the road from the Burmese temple and then got enlightened a few blocks away. While he is variously depicted as a mystic, a legendary figure, a historical teacher, and a leader, he is portrayed foremost as a human being with human capacities. He asked the kinds of questions any of us might ask about the nature of our existence. What does it mean to be born in a human body, vulnerable and helpless, then to grow old, sick, and die? Whether we like it or not. What does it mean to have a human mind that can careen through anger, joy, lust, pride in the space of a morning? Is there a quality of freedom and happiness that won't disappear as the conditions of our lives change? What can we trust? The Buddha can be an inspiration because he set out to answer those questions and succeeded. It is taught that the Buddha discovered the answers not through revelation from a supreme being, but through the power of awareness that is inherent in all of us. For some, he is a refuge by virtue of this inspiration. For devotional Buddhists, he is a refuge because they perceive him as a living energy capable of providing loving shelter. On that first evening of the retreat, however, Gongka took care to explain that taking refuge in the Buddha doesn't require calling yourself a Buddhist or adopting any dogma or feeling devotion to a particular being. Whether or not we have any interest in Buddhism as a religion, the potential to realize the Buddha's insight, compassion, and courage is a part of who we already are. The word Buddha means the one who is completely awakened from ignorance, one who has fulfilled his or her vast potential for wisdom and compassion. A Buddha resides in each of us as the potential for the awakened mind. Each one of us has the capacity to fully understand our lives and to be free. We can look at the Buddha and see ourselves. We see all that we can be. We can look at ourselves and we see not just one person's potential, but the capacity for freedom, the nascent Buddha within everyone. Taking refuge in the Buddha was, for me, like having an uncommon mirror held up before me and seeing myself in ways I hadn't before, rich with the potential for transformation and possessed of innate beauty. Hearing my own inner world portrayed as containing such seeds of abundance filled me with joy. I felt it was safe to go forward in this new exploration. The second refuge is the Dharma. The word Dharma in Sanskrit has several interrelated meanings. In the broadest sense, Dharma means the truth, the laws of nature, the way things are. Deciduous trees lose their leaves in winter. Change occurs despite our efforts to stop it. Unwelcome thoughts arise unbidden in our minds no matter what we will. If I tell lies, my mind will be filled with fear and uncertainty. The more clearly we see the Dharma, the way things are, the more clearly we see the inevitability of impermanence, the natural flow of joy and sorrow, the possibility of freeing our minds from entangling thoughts and finding happiness that won't vanish as our minds and bodies change. Like being close enough to the ocean to hear the rhythm of the surf underneath ordinary conversation, being in touch with the Dharma means hearing underlying truths pulse throughout the ordinary events of our lives. As poet Maria Rilke observed, don't be confused by surfaces. In the depths, everything becomes law. Dharma also means the Buddhist teachings such as the Four Noble Truths, suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the way to the end of suffering, which is the path of morality, concentration, and insight. When I studied them in college, the Four Noble Truths had been a mere concept. Here they were being described as a way of life, a practical set of tools to make our lives different. Taking refuge in the Dharma, we are taking refuge in a vision of life that extends beyond our usual limited sense of who we are and what we are capable of. The third refuge is the Sangha, the community of those who, throughout history, have sought freedom from suffering and have come to a real and personal awareness of that freedom. Listening to Gongka, I could almost feel the presence of the women and men who for centuries had the faith to walk a spiritual path, to set forth into the unknown, to challenge habit and let go of the convenient and familiar in order to find an end to suffering. Each one had personal conditioning to untangle, lives to understand, loss and fear with which to wrestle, and hearts to offer. If they could awaken to the truth of life, Gongka was telling us, we also could. As the vision of Sangha seeped into my mind, I realized that by honoring the inspiration of others who had walked this path before me, I was also discovering a new sense of my own heritage. Alongside generations of Polish Jewish peasants who were my ancestors, I could see all the women and men who had followed the Dharma in their own ways, discovering the same truths that I was being invited to uncover. Never before had I so fully recognized my intimate connection to those who had lived before me. For a moment, time collapsed, and we were all together. My biological ancestors who had brought me to the point, and the spiritual ancestors who were urging me onward. And the Sangha wasn't just out there somewhere in history, I realized. It was all around me. Gonka and Kuno Rinpoche seemed as loving and benevolent as any depiction of the Buddha I'd seen. I began to understand that those who are committed to realizing the truth can animate potential within us that might otherwise lie dormant. This urgency within them to be truthful, to wake up, not to waste their lives, can light a sense of urgency in us as well. The fire within them lights a fire within us. In the light of that flame, I felt a shelter of love and connection. Taking refuge in the Sangha, I could feel the force of life itself, without beginning or end, cascading through me, and I fell in love with the thrill of at last belonging to a greater whole. So, the Buddha once told this story about faith. A herd of cows arrives at the bank of a wide stream. The mature ones see the stream and they simply wade across it. The Buddha likened them to fully enlightened beings who have crossed the stream of ignorance and suffering. The younger cows, less mature in their wisdom, stumble apprehensively on the shore, but eventually they go forward and they cross the stream. Last come the calves, trembling with fear, some just learning how to stand, but these vulnerable, tender calves also get to the other side, the Buddha said. They cross the stream just by following the lowing of their mothers. The calves trust their mothers and, anticipating the safety of reunion, follow their voices and cross the stream. That, the Buddha said, is the power of faith to call us forward. The power of faith. And then there's this little chapter here that I wasn't planning on reading, but maybe it's an awesome thing to surrender to. Faith and Fear, Chapter 4. A few winters ago, there was a major exhibit of Vincent Van Gogh's artwork at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. The paintings included both exuberant outpourings and canvases tinged with foreboding. As I walked through the museum, my feelings kept shifting. What I found most heartrending in Van Gogh's work were the contrasts, the intensity of the swings from one mood to another, the paintings of light, sun-drenched landscapes, still lifes of flowering branches. The bedroom at Arles were tender, renewing, beckoning. Other darker canvases of twilight, ominous skies drew me into his vortex of sorrow. I imagined how Van Gogh must have so poignantly grieved a mood's passing as the light went and the darkness descended once more. I envisioned him engulfed by his changing states, with no refuge, no place to go get perspective or feel safe. A close friend of mine was in the midst of a major bout of depression. Another had been hospitalized for the past several months with recurrent pneumonia, as well as a puzzling disease physician after a physician was unable to diagnose. I stood in front of Van Gogh's painting, Wheat Filled with Crows, thinking of the artist, of my friends, of myself, how all of us face the ungovernable nature of life and the suffering that comes from our powerlessness, our inability to stop the changes. Every day we might think that we have it all under control, only to once again suffer defeat. I turned from the painting and set off for the museum gift shop to meet a friend. The shop was packed with people and souvenirs of the exhibit. At one point I found myself wedged between a pile of Vincent Van Gogh pool towels and a display of Vincent Van Gogh mouse pads. The contrast between my experience in the exhibit and what surrounded me in the gift shop was bizarre. As if the vast, untamable flow of life I'd seen evidenced in Van Gogh's paintings could be captured and neatly packaged into manageable and marketable items. Pool towels and mouse pads and umbrellas to be bought, wrapped up, and tucked away. Nevertheless, for a moment I too was tempted to buy a souvenir that might serve as a totem against an out-of-control world. The fact is that nothing we acquire, not even a Vincent Van Gogh mouse pad today and a pool towel tomorrow, will put conditions under our command. Life is like an ever-shifting kaleidoscope, a slight change and all patterns and configurations alter. A fight with a friend causes 15 other relationships to stir and turn. Our lives interconnected like a game of dominoes. One moment everything feels full and perfect, the next an accident happens or we fall sick. Settled comfortably into being single, we meet someone and fall deeply in love. We are going along in one direction when an unforeseen obstacle appears and we have to swerve out of the way. Suddenly, stunningly, we are in a different life. No matter how much we want it to be otherwise, the truth is that we are not in control of the unfolding of our experiences. Despite our search for stability and prediction for the center of our lives still hold firm, it never does. Life is wilder than that, a flow we can't command or stave off. We can affect and influence and impact what happens, but we can't wake up in the morning and decide what we will encounter and feel and be confronted by during the day. Invariably, when I think I have finally gotten some aspect of myself under control, life intrudes forcefully to show me otherwise. During the winter of the Vincent Van Gogh mouse pads, I came down with a bad case of the flu. Nevertheless, I continued to travel and teach until the flu turned to bronchitis, so severe that I broke a rib coughing. One evening, when I was on the verge of another relapse, some friends took me to an outdoor mineral bath, supposedly healing waters. We sat together in the warm water for some time, looking at the stars, enjoying easy, rambling talk. After a while, the topic turned to fear and how often it arises when we realize we aren't in control of events. We each told stories of when we had faced fear and how we had handled it, gracefully or poorly. Almost nonchalantly, I commented, "It feels like it has been a long time since I had an experience of acute, intense fear right down to my bones." Because of the greater serenity I had developed through meditation, I actually thought I had fear under control, that it was something I used to deal with long ago in my distant past. In terms of debilitating, crushing fear, I believed never again. Just 2 hours later, my bronchitis turned to asthma, the first asthma attack of my life. Lying down, trembling, unable to breathe, I wondered if I was in fact dying. The air around me seemed to have changed to a viscous substance too thick to inhale. As an astounding primal physical anxiety coursed through me, as I gasped for air, an image of my friend in the hospital with pneumonia came to mind, and I had a sudden terrible conviction that he would die. Overwhelmed by the vision of someone struggling futilely to breathe, struggling until death, I realized that could also be me. Sure enough, the fear went right down to my bones. Psychiatrist P.W. Winnicott once alluded to those moments in which we are utterly helpless as the feeling of falling endlessly. Winnicott used this image to describe the experience of growing up under the care of a depressed mother, but it is also one that describes what any of us might feel when no one seems to be in charge, when a situation we've relied on is coming apart, when everything around us is spinning out of control. Like most people, I'd been trained to fear anything I couldn't control, the unruly emotions of my mind, the unreliable character of my body, uncultivated nature, and certainly physical death, as well as the little echoes of death that appear in everyday change. It might have felt safer avoiding or denying the fierce uncertainty, the volcanic underpinnings of life, but as I learned to see with less illusion, I began to accept that no matter how I felt about it, life would never become predictable and orderly and fixed. I had to find something other than fear to guide me. For most of us, when life feels out of control, our most ready response is fear. When fear dominates, our sense of possibility collapses. Many years ago, I attended a stress reduction program led by John Kabat-Zinn. In one exercise, he stepped up to the blackboard and in the center drew a square made up of 9 dots, arranged in 3 parallel lines with 3 dots in each line. Then he challenged everyone in the class to take the piece of chalk and see if we could connect all the dots using only 4 straight lines, without removing the chalk from the blackboard and without retracing a line. One by one, all 30 of us went up to the blackboard. We tried beginning from left, from the right, from the top, from the bottom, and returned to our seats frustrated, unable to do what he'd asked. The room was vibrating with stress. Then John picked up the chalk and with great sweeping strokes that extended well beyond the perimeter of the small square, did exactly what he had challenged us to do. Every one of us had presumed that to succeed we had to stay within the circumscribed area formed by the 9 dots. John had never said that we were limited to that little space, but all of us had concluded that was the only area in which we had to move, in which to find options. Not one of us could see beyond our assumptions. Fear makes the same kind of assumption. It limits our options, strangles creativity, restricts our vision of what is possible. When the danger is physical, fear leads us in one of 2 directions. fight or flight. The body mobilizes to help us battle the menace or flee to safety. But even when we aren't in mortal danger, if we're lost in fear, we respond the same way. We either resist what is happening by angrily insisting that it be different, or we tighten up and pull away, denying our experience. When we are deeply afraid, we view any change as a threat and the unfamiliar as a mortal enemy. Being alive necessarily means uncertainty and risk, times of going into the unknown. If we withdraw from the flow of life, our hearts contract. We hold back so much that we feel separate from our own bodies and minds, separate from other people, even people we really care about. In the grip of other intense emotions like grief and jealousy, we might feel anguish, but fear shuts us down, arrests the life force. To be driven by fear is like dying inside. When the suffering is overwhelming, we may try to recoil from how bad it feels by numbing our reactions. Many of us survived childhood in just this way. But ultimately, cutting ourselves off from what is happening locks us into fear and makes us unable to see what we might find another way to respond outside the small section delineated by the dots defined by our assumptions. Faith, in contrast, reminds us of the ever-changing flow of life with all its movement and possibility. Faith is the capacity of the heart that allows us to draw close to the present and find there the underlying thread connecting the moment's experience to the fabric of all of life. It opens us to a bigger sense of who we are and what we are capable of doing. To act with faith, however, means not getting seduced by any of its ready replacements. One of the most subtle ways fear can bind us so quietly that we hardly know to call it fear is what is known in Buddhist teachings as fixated hope. Fixated hope, like hope itself, resembles faith in that both sparkle with a sense of possibility. But fixated hope is conditional, circumscribing happiness to getting what we want. We may, for example, have faith in our children's ability to have a meaningful life, but if to us that means they will grow up to be doctors or lawyers rather than custodians or waiters, what we are really doing is trying to manage life. Any insistence that people or circumstances meet our exact expectations is not faith, but another effort at control bound to end in disappointment. So any insistence that people or circumstances meet our exact expectations is not faith, but another effort at control bound to end in disappointment. I'm not at all suggesting hopelessness. It's natural to want things to work out in ways that we believe will be for the good. When we are in pain, hoping for things to be another way can be essential to our health and even our survival. When we're unhappy, it is natural to picture how things might be better. True hope can open our hearts and remind us of light when we are in the darkness. But when our hope for relief from suffering is based only on getting what we want in the precise way that we want it, we bind hope to fear rather than to faith. Buddhism regards fixated hope and fear as two sides of the same coin. Buddhism regards fixated hope and fear as two sides of the same coin. When we hope for a particular outcome to arise or a desire to be met, we invariably fear that it won't happen. So it may be about anxiety, like fear that we won't have, or the fear that we'll lack, or that we do lack, So thus we move from hope to fear to hope to fear to hope to fear in an endless loop. Fixated hope promises to break us free of the circumscribed area in the middle of the blackboard, only to lead us right back to the narrow confines of that little square. I saw myself caught in this cycle of hope and fear when Ram Dass, Western spiritual teacher and author, suffered a massive stroke in 1997. He is an old and close friend of mine. Starting with our first Buddhist meditation retreat in India, he and I often pursued a spiritual practice together in many places around the world. We loved and respected many of the same teachers. A close confidant, Ram Dass, once helped me through a long and difficult relationship breakup. We had a rich and ongoing dialogue on issues such as the role of spiritual awareness in social change. We also celebrated many of our significant life passages together, such as his 60th birthday. We had been fond of each other for decades. During the hours immediately following news of his stroke, a few of our mutual friends gathered at my house. Not knowing if Ram Dass would live or die, not knowing to what extent he might recover speech and mobility, we were all trying to comfort one another. We meditated, we reminisced, we waited for news, and we speculated. Fear spiked through my body. I was in shock and was scared of the pictures that kept entering my mind. Obsessing over what might happen, I replayed each scenario a dozen times. Maybe he'll be able to speak again but not walk. Maybe he will be able to write but not speak. Maybe he will make a complete recovery. Clearly, this was all conjecture, a way of trying to gain some control over the situation, as if by repeating something enough times I could make it happen. I wanted Ram Dass to recover from the stroke, looking and acting just the way he had looked and acted before. I wanted him walking, funny, brilliant. I might have called my response true hope, but it was actually fixated hope. Fear kept me from letting in the reality. Ram Dass was immobile, unable to communicate, facing an uncertain outcome. Frustrated that I couldn't do anything about the situation, I prayed. I called on the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the universe, those beings who represent freedom to me, who are the embodiment of goodness and wisdom. I was reaching out for refuge, and this time I wasn't looking for support from the Buddha mind within me. I was joining all those who call out to the Buddha in devotion. I was seeking shelter and support, and my request was urgent. Turning to something bigger and more powerful made me feel less alone and more aligned with forces of protection and love. But I still felt anxious. Finally, I had to admit that I wasn't really placing the situation in the arms of the Buddha. I was fervently praying that this disaster would all just go away, that Ram Dass would be completely well as if the stroke had never happened, or maybe he could be even better. I was praying for things to go exactly the way I wanted them to. Praying like this isn't a bad practice. When I was in the hospital facing surgery and a potential malignancy, my friend Sylvia Borstein prayed for me. She later told me, "I didn't do any of that. Whatever may be in her best interests, may it come to pass," stuff I just said. No cancer. Got that, God? I laughed hard at her spiritual political incorrectness. It felt great to be so powerfully supported by the intensity of her caring. I believe that such prayers generate an energy that can have an effect. I also enjoyed her unabashed willingness to admit that she had strong desires about what should happen for me, and what she wanted the outcome exactly as she was stating it, no deviations allowed. Got that, God? But Sylvia knew, as I did in praying for Ram Dass, that if we absolutely insist that things work out only as we want them to, our prayers become a version of fixated hope. When hope and prayer become strategies to avoid facing what is, then we have nothing on which When hope and prayer become strategies to avoid facing what is, then we have nothing on which to base either effective action or real peace of mind. We're back in the hope-fear dilemma. So, fear-desire cycles. That's what it seems like. When I saw the reason for my anxiety, I began to relax. Outside the limitations of my fear lay a vast space of possibility. I aimed my mind toward it. Underneath my walking, talking, same as before agenda, what I really wanted to pray for was that Ram Dass would not feel all alone, that he would feel sheltered and held, that benevolence would surround him. This had nothing to do with demanding a specific outcome. I saw that Ram Dass was going into the unknown, into a realm none of us could control, and if I couldn't accept that, I couldn't go there with him. The more I resented or denied the reality of what was true, the more limited I would be in my ability to support my friend in a loving way. Throughout the course of that night, I sat side by side with fear. As I acknowledged it, befriending myself despite the fear, my heart began to open. I met the unknown without a strategic plan for control. With fear no longer dominating my mind, my love for Ram Dass could arise freely. Loving him didn't depend on a fixated hope for his recovery. The power of love wouldn't shatter in the face of change or disintegrate in the wash of my own terror. We had all fallen silent, each of us with our own thoughts of Ram Dass, when late into the night, one of his closest friends quietly spoke. "Here and now we have entered the mystery," she said. "This is a time for faith." As each of us accepted the fact of Ram Dass's stroke and surrendered to our inability to control the situation, tenderness and a tangible peace filled the room. None of us knew what would happen, but faith allowed us to relax into the vast space of not knowing. Even as I felt the ache of sorrow, I remembered that life is bigger than its constantly, sometimes drastically changing circumstances. Looking around the room at all of us gathered there, I cherished the refuge of Sangha community, which has continually helped me open to a greater truth. And I think I'll stop it there. Wow, that was like so perfect. Just love, love, love. love how life, if we allow it and we surrender, yeah, how it just is always giving us like what we need if we can surrender. Yeah, and receive. How beautiful. Yeah. For me to receive and to share and to offer and to free. Yeah, amazing. Amazing grace and faith. Trust. Trusting in this love and taking refuge. And acceptance of what is. So I feel complete with this, and I'll see you in just a minute to talk about healing mantras, the word, chant, frequency, vibration, and all these things that relate. All these gifts and blessings, and all these things I appreciate. All right, I appreciate you for being here and for being you. I love you. I hope you're being love for yourself, being good to yourself, choosing to be well for yourself. All right, take good care of yourself. Be well, be loved, and be true. We'll see you for now.